Welcome everyone to tonight's discussion, and thank you for joining us. My name is Laura Galbraith, and I will be hosting this evening, and we hope that this evening will inspire you with a lively discussion about careers in the charitable sector, and also speak to your interest in the variety of volunteer opportunities available to you. International Women's Day is traditionally celebrated by community organizations across Waterloo region and globally through a range of activities that celebrate the women who have made and continue to make a difference in our world. This year's theme is Embrace Equity. Equity isn't just a nice to have, but it is simply a must. We can all truly embrace equity. It is just not something we say. It's not something we just write about. It's something that we need to think about and know and embrace and act upon. It's what we believe in unconditionally and truly means creating an inclusive world for all. Collectively, we can all embrace equity. Our goal tonight is to create a space to learn and grow in our career planning, a safe space to ask questions from our esteemed panelists and learn from them, and to provide opportunities to make connections and get involved. Before we begin, we would like to start with a land acknowledgement. We understand that the session is virtual, so you could be joining us from a variety of different locations. Our panelists and our panel are taking place in Waterloo region this evening, so our land acknowledgement reflects that. Waterloo region, including the 3 cities and 4 townships, are located on the traditional territories of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Waterloo region is part of the Haldimand Tract, which encompasses 6 miles on either side of the Grand River from the mouth near Dundalk to where it empties into Lake Erie at Port Maitland. This use of the land was promised to the Haudenosaunee Confederation on October 25th, 1784, to compensate them for the loss of the lands in upstate New York when they allied with the British, who were defeated in the American Revolution War. Today, Waterloo region is home to the Indigenous people from many distinct First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. So I just wanted to, our session tonight, along with all of our sessions, part of the series, are facilitated and created by a group of local volunteers within our community to help bring these sessions to you. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our committee members for this evening. And as demonstrated on this slide, and a special thank you to our sponsors as well for making these sessions all available either through live or available following the session. So we are really thankful for all of these sponsors. I am pleased to introduce the moderator for this evening, Deborah Barton. Deborah has devoted her life's work to her career in philanthropy for the past 35 years. As a child growing up in rural New England, her small-knit community offered meaningful programs to help others, like the Fresh Air Fund for inner city kids in New York, and shaped her values and her love for all at an early age. Today, she's the director of philanthropy at the Grand River Hospital Foundation and has worked for leading nonprofits dedicated to disease prevention, children's health and development, and world-class care. Deborah is a mom, wife, and community member in Stratford, Ontario, where you can find her volunteering at the world-renowned festival and spending time with family near the shores of Georgian Bay. I will pass it over to Deborah.
Thank you, Laura, for the very kind introduction. We are so grateful that you've joined us this evening, where we'll look to share and inspire the next generation of leaders. That's you in the not-for-profit sector. And we'd like to share with you what it's like working in this field. You'll hear about our experiences and some insights and learn how we are embracing equity in our organizations. As part of a core value that we all must work and strive to do. And you'll have a chance to ask questions of our panel at the end. There's a Q&A section on the screen there, so feel free to pop your questions in there. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that there is a monumental opportunity to have an astounding array of careers in our sector. And if you think on it, every culture has some kind of tradition of giving and sharing. And one of the things that connects us all is a sense of how to help others. And I'm very passionate about it. And it gives me great pleasure to connect students tonight to the world of philanthropy, whether you're new to the idea or whether you've got some ideas and you just need some mentorship moving forward. I was driven to a career in service, and it's staggering to step back and see the overwhelming contribution and impact that our sector has on jobs and economic activity. It's at about an average of 8% of gross domestic product for Canada, and that's about $186 billion. It's even more than the retail trade industry. So it's big. There's 86,000 registered nonprofits in our country, and 2 million Canadians are employed in the charitable sector. So this multi-billion-dollar industry is really all about everyday improving lives, the world around us, and is a driving force for change, no longer seen as the poor cousin to business and government sectors. So tonight, our panel is going to showcase careers about a few causes we've decided to focus on, and we've called those the 3 E's: environment, education, and essential services. And you're going to learn about a variety of different careers in the sector, from fundraising to marketing, event planning, finance, from all of our women tonight who are performing impactful work in causes that really do change the lives of others. So as a reminder, if you have questions, feel free to add them into the Q&A function, where I will monitor those, and we're going to address your questions following my questions to the panel. And the format tonight is of 30 minutes with the panel and myself, and then we'll open it up for about 15 minutes for your questions. And if time is short and we don't get to those, we will certainly be providing you contact information on a slide that Laura has for you at the end. And please know the session is being recorded and will be available for viewing and sharing. So let's get the conversation started. I'm really pleased to introduce our panel. Tova Davidson is a devoted mom, leader, creative, and energetic talent who's really passionate about environmental sustainability and improving health access and equity, both locally and around the world. After 12 years in marketing, Tova set out to follow her dreams, and she traveled the world to study human development and believes no work is beneath you. Tova is the executive director for Sustainable Waterloo Region, and it's a social enterprise, a nonprofit leading the transformation to sustainable systems of energy, mobility, and construction to help build a cleaner, more diverse economy and a more just and equitable community. So welcome, Tova. Raeana Samuel is the volunteer engagement coordinator for Technovation, where girls across the globe learn to solve social problems in their local community with technology innovation. And supported by a network of mentors, ambassadors, and parents, these girls are changing the world. And Ray believes that you can too. She is super passionate about gender equity and helping youth to find their spark with tech, science, and capacity building. With her degree in biochemistry at her core, Ray is thrilled to be a part of giving girls the space and the opportunity to be impactful in their world and bring about much needed change in leadership and innovation. Welcome, Ray. And Jennifer Scott hails from rural Ontario, where helping others was integrated, really ingrained in her upbringing, lending a hand to neighbors and volunteering as a young girl. Jen believes when you hear or see something and your heart breaks, then go there to find your path. That's what Jen has done as a volunteer manager at the House of Friendship, where she works at this organization that provides food, housing, and addiction treatment and neighborhood support to 42,000 individuals. She sees firsthand the impact of poverty on health and brings her years of community engagement, experience, and business background with a really keen eye for operations, which she really loves in our charitable sector. So welcome, Jen. I want to start by thanking each of you for your passions and changing lives every day. Career paths really do look very different for each of us. And I know for mine, I fell into fundraising and I stumbled upon the charitable sector quite by accident after a degree in political science. So I wanted to ask each of you about your own journey. Was the path you took an intentional career path, or did you find yourself discovering new interests along the way? And feel free to include your educational pursuits as well, and what drew you to your current role. And we'll start with you, Tova.
Thanks, Deborah. It's really nice to be here. Can you hear me all well? Perfect. So I think this is actually kind of a fun thing to hear, these stories, how people got into the careers they've gotten into. I started out studying philosophy because my older brother told me not to bother. And any younger sibling knows that you should always do what your older sibling says not to do. So studied my first philosophy class and found my passion, and did a master's degree in philosophy. But as many of us end up with, we decide we need to earn some money. And while I was finishing my master's, I actually got a job at the call center at Frederick and Weber here in Kitchener for Rogers Communications. Just to make the story faster than it could be, I spent about 5 years there, but very quickly came out of the call center environment and came into communications. And it was a core skill, including customer service and communications, that they saw in me. And they pulled me out of that role that they originally hired me for. And I did internal communications, employee rewards and recognition, and then moved into public relations as well. Didn't have any education in it, but it was just a natural aptitude. And I think it came from a lot of my experiences in my education doing good communications, as well as a long history in high school and in university working in the service industry. But I decided after a while I didn't want to do the commute to Toronto anymore. I'd had my first son, and I thought that staying in town would be a good thing, and went and knocked on the door very cheekily of a local boutique marketing agency and convinced them to hire me, which was great. It's now called the Letter M Marketing. It's in Guelph. And I spent 12 years there and went from coordinator to vice president. And in the last 4 to 5 years as I was vice president, I really did learn a lot of things about bringing together what business needs, creativity, how to make change, how to encourage people to make the change you want them to, and how to run a good business. And I was really lucky that that organization believed in volunteerism, believed in community. And I did a lot of volunteerism over those years. And knocked on doors of organizations I wanted to work with and brought my marketing skills with me. But I hit about my late 30s and thought, this isn't really what I thought my life would be, this spending all this time in a corporate world, and just started thinking about what did I really want my impact to be. And the question I often ask myself is, was my day worthy of the resources that I expended environmentally, the time that I've been given? I only have so many minutes in a lifetime. Was it worth it? Did I spend them well? And so I decided it was time to go into the nonprofit sector. And there were only a few issues that really drove me. And environment was one of them, having grown up as the kid who picks up every piece of litter and moves every snail off the sidewalk as I walked. This job came across my LinkedIn one day as I went in to do some marketing for a client. And it really is about understanding what businesses need. We work at business and organizational level sustainability, and we work at community scale. So it's not about what you do at home. So a lot of that path, working in restaurants and knowing service, having good communication skills, learning what a business needs, all of those things led me to where I am now. It was not purposeful, to your question. I did not have an intention to go there, but I did have that moment of, this isn't quite what I thought my life would be, and I don't feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose, or I'm giving back to the world as best as I could. So that's my path, and I wouldn't change it for anything. The things I learned along the way have been really valuable to where I am now.
That's great, Tova. Lots of twists and turns for you, but you followed your heart, and that's really inspiring to listen to that and to connect to what you were passionate about. But all of that background, it was fantastic to bring into the world you are in today. And I'm going to move over to Ray. How did you find your path, Ray? And what was your journey like? Did you discover some new interests? And and through the opportunities you've had with schooling and so forth. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah, and thank you for having me today. I'm happy to know that Tova also kind of just found her way, because that was me as well. I didn't intend on being in the nonprofit space. I think I always knew I would volunteer and give back in some way, but working in it full time, I don't think is something that was on my radar. I started school with the end goal of going into medical research in immunology, which is why I studied biochemistry. And I was really fortunate to get into a program that offered co-op. So I was getting to have work terms in addition to my school terms. So I could practice in the field, I could get an understanding of what it would be like. And I went into my first co-op term really set on getting a lab job, because if you're going to do medical research, you're in a lab. So I was like, this is going to be a great way to learn. I was really excited. I applied to all these jobs and got no interviews. And I said, okay, I need to readjust. So a friend of my brother's was working in the medical field. So she looked over my resume. She gave me some great feedback. I revamped it. I resubmitted. And then the interview offers started coming in. But I also opened up my purview. I said, okay, maybe lab jobs aren't quite where I need to be. I'm only in my second year at this point. I'm very junior compared to a lot of the students in the pool. So I'll apply to jobs that are in science and tech, but work with kids, because I had a lot of experience there, from classic being a summer camp leader and volunteering after school. And I ended up interviewing with our outreach office on campus in our Faculty of Engineering. I graduated from the University of Waterloo and absolutely fell head over heels in love, and was like, education is where I want to be. It was just so much fun. I had to teach a Lego robotics course, and I hadn't played with Lego in years, and I had no idea how to code. But I got to play around with it and figure it out. And I got to learn with the kids, which was really fun. And I got to see them be excited and figuring out things. And so that was really the catalyst of, okay, maybe medical research isn't quite the path for me, but I know I want to be in education. And so that's kind of how I continued on. And then when I graduated, I moved to another office in the university, and that's how I found Technovation. I was running the program locally, and I did that for 2 years. And that was really great because it forced me to kind of get out there and meet people and learn more about my community and what it needs and how I can meet them where they're at and bring them cool things and fun opportunities. And so nonprofit work, it kind of found me. I didn't really find it. But I don't think it's a space that I would want to be anywhere else in. I was with a company for a little while. I was on the nonprofit side, but I had a hard time getting our objectives to tie into theirs. So I moved back to the nonprofit space with Technovation, whose mission is all about giving back and meeting girls where they're at and getting them engaged with their communities. And it feels really great, and I'm excited to never leave.
Oh, that's fantastic. Ray, you have such great passion, and I love that it found you, and you're really in a role that is so fitting, and you can bring so much to that that spark that you help other girls to achieve as well. So I can see that in you, and congratulations for finding it and never wanting to leave. And that's just great. Jennifer, we'll hear from you about your path and how you got started.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well. Yeah, as you shared in my bio, supporting the community and supporting people is really something that was ingrained in me in a young age. So a job in not-for-profit was a natural fit for me. I think that I knew that I needed to be doing something that had a positive social impact and something that was just good for my soul. So I fell into volunteer management though. So that is something that kind of just came up. My degree is in gerontology, so the study of aging. And then my first job out of university was coordinating a volunteer program that supported seniors to maintain their independence. So I fell into volunteer management. I definitely chose the not-for-profit space, but from that first job on, I intentionally have remained within this sector. I've loved the variability that I get within my job, within volunteer management. Each day is different. Often in this field, my role would touch on many different program areas. So I have a really strong pulse as to what's going on in the organization. I'm often able to see really well how volunteers can fit into a space and how their engagement can have a big impact. And I really am seeing a lot of just variability in the careers that are available in not-for-profit space, which is just very exciting. Early on in my career, I also did have a strong interest in business, and really the space of how do you balance the business side of something with a not-for-profit that's usually very like heart focused and focused on your soul and doing good. So how do we balance that? So the strong interest led me to completing my MBA very part-time while I had little ones at home. And as I was wrapping up my master's degree, I started working here where I am now at House of Friendship. So I've been here for about 5 years now, still in volunteer management. However, I've had the opportunity, because this is a big organization and because there's lots going on in this space and in this organization in general, I've had the opportunity to do project management. I've had the opportunity to get involved in program operations. In this area, I was really able to see where my strengths come out. I've realized that there's a few things that I'm good at that, I can see clarity often in maybe a chaotic situation. I really can clearly see the end goal and how to get there. So I was able to, thanks to this organization and this not-for-profit, be able to experience more and grow within some of these areas. I don't really know what my career path looks like going forward. I don't know if I should. I feel like I'm already 40 years old. I should know, but honestly, I'm just continuing to learn and grow. And I think that's all we need is as long as you love what you're doing, you don't really have to have that path figured out. So that's currently where I'm at.
I totally agree, Jen. At one point in my career, I was working with a career coaching consulting firm, and they asked very specifically, what is your path? And I never even gave that a thought. So like Ray, it finds you, and then, as you move along, we can make choices and decisions. But it's really exciting to know and to share that our journeys do take twists and turns, and it's interesting to see how many different factors are involved and the directions we can all take. So my next question is, what or who in your life has inspired you to do the incredible work that you are doing today? And did you have a mentor or a leader or someone who saw something in you and encouraged you to pursue this line of work? And if so, what's the biggest lesson that you learned from your mentor or influencer, and why did you choose to do this work? So maybe we'll start with Ray.
Yeah. I technically have 3 people, but 2 of them can be lumped together. So my parents were kind of the first people, I think for a lot of people, they're the first kind of influence in your life. They were immigrants to this country, so they weren't super familiar with how the education system worked here, but they knew it was important that I worked hard and I did everything I could to get where I wanted to be, but they were always really encouraging of whatever felt right for me was probably the direction I needed to go. And they were wonderfully supportive through all of the kind of changes of what I wanted to do and where I saw myself. And it was never a question of, what happened and why'd you do that? But it was, what did you learn and where can you go next? And so I really hang on to that. And the third person would be an old boss who really taught me a lot about intentionality. And if you can do everything and make your decisions and have a reason for them, if you can show why something is important to you or why it's important to the group that you're doing it for, you're never going wrong, because it means you've taken the time and you've done the work to understand who you're working for and who you're working with, and your interest is kind of at heart, not at front of mind. So I hold on to those two lessons for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Jennifer, did you have someone or an incident in your life, sort of an event or a person that inspired you, or anything in particular that is a milestone that happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been inspired by my family and my rural kind of like help your neighbor upbringing. That really encouraged me to get into this line of work. But there's a few people, and I think within each of my last recent jobs that have really left an impact. One of them was one of my first leaders that I learned a lot from. I joined their team just as I was finishing my last maternity leave. So I left my full-time job when I had little ones. I started doing my MBA, and then I went back to work part-time. So just getting back into the workforce, working 2 days a week. I was juggling being a new mom and school and all of this stuff. And she really is who supported me in work-life balance and prioritizing that and helping me figure that out. She was the first boss that I had that really took an interest in me as a person, and recognizing that me as a person is the most important part. Recognizing that my home life was my priority, and that she just would take care of her team in a way that I hadn't really experienced before. And that's something that I've continued to value and bring into my own leadership journey. Next is a few mentors that I have here right now at House of Friendship. I've just been learning and growing so much in the past 5 years, thanks to these amazing people. And these are the leaders who saw in me the gifts of project management, and they were the ones who encouraged me to develop these skills, gave me the opportunity to develop these skills, and ultimately encouraged me in my new role here. They support me, help me make decisions. I know they have my back, and they just create that safe space that allowed me to grow professionally and personally. And I will take these experiences with me in my next or my current journey. And, I just value team members, and I value the gifts that they bring. And first and foremost, I value the person that they are outside of their work and how they can contribute. So those are the people who have led me well.
Oh, thanks, Jen. It's great. And Tova, I know you shared a fantastic story with me earlier, and I just love it. So I know who it is, I think, you're going to talk about.
So I want to talk about my dad. He's 80 now, is a huge hippie. We grew up north of Lake Superior, think VW bus, big beard, the glasses, the whole bit. That's my dad. And I think I get a lot of this sort of give back, love of the earth, and the understanding that the love of the earth is love of humanity. A lot of people ask me like, oh, you must be fighting hard for the trees. And I'm like, no, I'm fighting for the survival of humanity. That's what sustainability work is to me. This isn't about the trees and the bugs and the bunnies. They'll all manage. It's us that I'm fighting for. And he is not only an environmentalist, as you would expect from a hippie, but he was the first feminist I ever met. And my dad gave me my very first feminist book, my very first Gloria Steinem book. When my parents got married in the 60s, my mom's a lot more traditional. My dad said to her, why are you changing your name? I don't own you. I don't understand why you would do that. So that and he's also so gentle and so kind. And he taught me, I'm very frenetic and very active. He's like, if you slow down, you'll go faster. That sort of beautiful energy from him. And I still say, I want to be as good as my dad when I grow up. And he tells me to strive for more than that. And he was an educator who eventually went on to spend his retirement volunteering doing gender awareness work in like the 20-aughts. So that was interesting. He worked with the Red Cross to talk to them about gender. So really cool. So he is my heart, first man I ever loved, still do. And actually, it's interesting when I think about who now do I connect with. There's a number of leaders around this community who I see as really wonderful examples of people that I aspire to be like, who inspire me. And they include other environmentalists like Priyanka Lloyd and Mary Jane Patterson from Green Economy Canada and Reef Green Solutions, and John Neufeld from House of Friendship. There is no one more genuine. And if you need somebody to just be a support, he is one of the most beautiful people. And so all three of them, among many, many others, are just so inspiring. And I think that's why this community is as it is that there are these truly leading from the heart people, which is just amazing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Tova. I can picture each of you now with your special group, like a circle of friends for life. And I too, in early days, in the early 80s, when I fell into the sector, I aspired to so passionate. I was born to do the work, very authentic and genuine, and to take you under your wings. So I hope all of us can do that for the people that are following us, and support them along the way too. And of course, my mom was a huge person in our community growing up, and just seeing the connections that you can make and how to make things better. So I love these stories of people that you meet along the way, and family who are critical to where we are today and what we're doing. So Jennifer, you're actually moving into a new and very highly impactful role within the House of Friendship. And I just wanted to ask you what you're looking forward to most within this role, and tell us how maybe this is shaping your career journey.
The career path I don't have, right? Yeah, so I just started a new role within our shelter care program like 2 weeks ago. So I'm very excited to be leading this new program for the next year. For those of you who aren't aware, shelter care is the integration of healthcare and other supports within our shelter system. So we have been running this model for a few years now and seen tremendous impact within the community of those who are experiencing homelessness. And just last month, we moved into our brand new building and are getting ready to support 100 men who are experiencing homelessness with wraparound support and healthcare on site. So that is what I am doing for the next year. And to be honest, it was a big jump for me to leave my role that I loved and take this on for the next year. It's increased responsibility, larger scope of work, and just in a space that I'm not completely accustomed to. The decision to do this, I was chatting with my boss, our HR director, and she said, I think you should do it. I think it'd be great for you. And I was going into her office to talk it through, and on her door was this. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if this is going to work at all, but it's, the small circle here this is your comfort zone, which is where I've been sitting for a few years. And because I have to, we were in pandemic and that's what I needed for my life. But this is where the magic happens, in that big circle. And I was reminded, literally, because I almost walked into the door and that picture, that I needed to step outside of my comfort zone, because that is where the magic is going to happen. So I'm really excited to see what kind of magic is going to come this year. Really what I'm looking forward to is diving deep into one program area. I've shared with you that volunteer management is very exciting because we get to support across the organization, but I'm really interested to see the impacts that I can have within this small team. Sorry, it's not a small team, it's a big team. But yeah, right now, I don't know how this is going to shape my career journey, but I know that from this experience, I'm going to be learning a lot more about my people leadership skills. I'm going to have a lot of challenging situations. I'm going to be making decisions quickly and supporting a team that is really doing amazing work. So this is an innovative program. We're providing shelter services in a way that hasn't really been done before. And I'm just excited to see this program flourish and then share that with this community.
Yeah, Jen, I'm really inspired by what you've talked about in terms of that comfort zone, right? And I think that's where the learning and growth and development happens for each of us, when we can sort of disrupt our own lives in a way that, makes us a little uncomfortable, and try something new, and find out if it's for you, and is it a path or is it a side trail, that'll take you somewhere else. But no, thank you for sharing that. And Ray, because this panel is geared towards youth and helping to navigate future career paths, as well as volunteer opportunities, I'd love to hear from you, Ray, and how you involve and engage youth in your organization, and what role do young people play advancing your mission?
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. Youth are our mission. We are a global nonprofit that is all about empowering young women, girls, non-binary youth, trans youth, gender non-conforming youth to build their identity as STEM leaders and problem solvers. And so we invite them to do this through our 4-month program that runs January to April. So we're in the wrapping stages of it for this year. And they're encouraged to find a problem either in their local community or in the global community within the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that they're really excited about, and that they are passionate about solving. And then we take them through kind of coming up with solutions and what does an effective solution look like. They do a little market research, a little competitor research, and then we jump into tech. So they think about how their solution can be presented through an app or through AI, and they'll get to learn how to prototype in those things and do some rapid prototyping and kind of build a hopefully really robust minimum viable product. Then we take them through some business. They'll learn about user adoption and their business plans, and thinking about what do the financials look like, where's their market exist, how do they grow their reach, or what are future things that they can do to improve their impact and scale. And finally, we get them to pitch it. So they put together a pitch video and a technical video showing us the wonderful prototype they've built. They'll go through a couple rounds of judging. We get to finalist teams. We have 3 divisions. So this program is for girls ages 8 to 18, and there are 3 divisions within that. We pick a finalist from each division from different parts of the world. So we end up with 15 teams of really amazing young women who are doing great things in their communities. And then they get to kind of pitch one last time, and we find our top teams. But really anyone who submits or even signs up and just learns about their community is achieving and doing so much. And a lot of our alumni will go on to either continue building their idea or find another idea they're excited about and keep building. We just had a team that we were chatting with in the Dominican Republic who turned their idea from the program into a social enterprise in the Dominican Republic, where they're encouraging people to think more sustainably when they shop and when they go out. So it's really exciting to see, because they have such a unique perspective on how the world is working, and they're so plugged into their generation with internet access, but we really get to look at it from the unique perspective of how do we take this and bring it across the world so that everyone has an opportunity to be able to grow and develop these skills. And it's really amazing to see. And I don't think there's been a season I've been involved where I haven't cried as much as I have cheered, because they're just so amazing to work with.
It's so cool, Ray. You have the coolest job. It's so fantastic. Thank you for your thoughts on this and sharing how it's going and the impact it's having, not only individually, personally for the girls, but overall the impact is incredible. And I know that as we look to the future, the need for youth engagement is really important, and it's really critical. At Grand River Hospital Foundation, we value our youth and their perspectives, their energy, their ideas on our team. And we've just hired some recent graduates for a data scientist role, a graphic designer, marketing coordinator, all very supportive roles to community engagement and that love of mankind that Tova was describing as far as philanthropy goes, and inviting engagement for creating better health systems, trailblazing for world-class care, as we strive to do at Grand River. And Tova, I was going to ask you, for any student that's interested in pursuing a career within this sector, what skills or qualities do you think that are essential for young people who want to pursue this avenue? And part two, have you found any limitations as a woman in a leadership role in the charitable sector?
All right, I want to start with the second one first, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I think it's funny. I have friends, and they are a mother and daughter, and they are each 15 years either older or younger than I am. And I am equally friends with each of them. And the daughter said to me when she works in the tech world, she's like, where are all the women? I'm seeing all these men in all of my meetings. Where are all the women? And I messaged her back and I said, we're over in the nonprofit sector. Come join us. So we actually joke at SWR that we are almost entirely a team of women, that finding men in the nonprofit sector is sometimes the challenge. But to your question about challenges in being a woman in a leadership role, what I actually find is, because my work is not about nonprofit, it's actually about businesses and municipalities, I'm often the only woman leader in the room. It happens on a fairly regular basis. And in that case, I end up just sort of trying not to think about the fact that I'm a woman in the room, but just trying to think about the fact that I'm a leader with specific knowledge and bringing that knowledge and owning the space of leadership. Because I find that as I'm coaching a lot of the women on my team, we often say, I think X, Y, Z. I think we should do this, or I'm sorry, but. And it's not that you think. If you're in this room with this role, you're there because you have the expertise. You should own that. And so there's this whole thing of just owning the role you have in the room and being comfortable owning that space. It also doesn't hurt that I almost never can bring the energy levels down. And so I just get so excited and I want to talk about what we're doing. And I'm so enthusiastic about what we're doing. So that helps. But my advice would be, as a woman leader, to just own why you're there. Know that you're there and be confident in why you're there. The first part of the question was people who want to get involved in the sector. And so what I actually find is that we are more likely to hire for the personality and the core skills than the deep knowledge of carbon accounting or any of the other pieces we do. For example, I am only now taking my very first carbon formal education. I've been in this role 9 years. I have no background in environment. I've learned everything I know on the job, absorbing like a sponge from all the smart people I work with. So it's something to think about, like, what base skills do you have? Do you have good project management skills, as Jennifer was talking about? Are you really great at engaging people, as Ray clearly is? Are you passionate about the work that you're doing, Deborah, as you've talked about a lot of what you've done? All of those things are really the ethos of what we look for. The details of, like, what are scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, we can teach you that. If you're smart and you're eager, we can teach you that. We're more likely looking for people who have the right sort of mindset and base aptitudes. And Deborah, as you and I talked about, in our pre-conversation, I really believe that there is no work that is beneath any of us. And like, as a kid, my jobs were not fun. I started working at 14, children's programs in local hotels, babysitting before that, cleaning out stalls at a friend's barn. Like, all of that teaches you something. And I think young people these days are taught that you should have a path and a passion, and you follow that path exclusively. But I actually think that this meandering that a lot of us kind of did is where some of the magic of skills comes from, even if your education is slightly different. And how did you get there? So what I would say is to do work that is meaningful, and that can be serving people coffee, because that can be the highlight of somebody's day. And it could be that you are looking for purpose and joy by giving. And so that can be in all kinds of places, and be open to possibilities.
Love it. I was a chambermaid, Tova, those early days of our, working life as teenagers. And I embraced it. I learned how to make a bed properly. I watched the owners how they were running a business. And so you carry this with you. And I totally agree. No work is beneath us. And it's just really inspiring to hear you share too about your hiring practices. And more I'm seeing organizations, especially in our sector, hiring for passion, as opposed to, we can teach the functional skills, but if you have the passion in this sector and you have a love for wildlife, for example, or sustainability where you are, or any particular cause, there's hundreds and thousands of causes. If you have that passion, you are that much further ahead in engaging others to connect and inspire, giving, inspire volunteering. So hiring for passion, we're never going to find 100% fit with anyone in any role. I mean, let's be honest, it's just not realistic. So you grow into it, or you don't, and you find your way that makes sense for you. And as leaders in this sector, the impact that we help drive really does play an important role in the work that we do. And I would love to hear from all of you now about that impact. Maybe there's one highlight, and then how you measure it. And part two, could you tell us some strategies that you use, not only in how you're making a difference in the world around us, but how your organization is embracing equity? So maybe we'll start with you, Jennifer.
Yeah, House of Friendship is a big organization. So we have quite a bit of impact on quite a few in Waterloo region, 42,000 to be more specific. So we have an impact on people who are in need of food, housing, community resources, and addiction treatment. In many of these cases, these individuals are people who are living on a low income. They may be new to Canada or struggling with addiction. They're struggling to access resources, and often they're struggling to find that connection and the feeling of belonging in their community. So each of our programs measures impact in a different way. We collect data, we do all of that, but something that we try to do differently is when we're sharing impact, we try to do that through storytelling. We believe, and we find that it's important to really get to know and build connection with those that we're serving. Those that are accessing our programs and our supports, they often generally never choose to be in the situation that they're in, right? They don't want to come to us. Maybe it's a car accident, a lost job, or a traumatic childhood experience is often the root of the challenge that someone is facing when they're coming to us. So when we get to know these folks and we hear more about their story, we quickly realize that this very easily could have been us. This very easily could have been me. It really helps to level out the playing field. It creates us as equals, and we come together in a more equitable way. The way in which that we're embracing equity is just through a team that really respects and honors the uniqueness of each person, the story of each person, and what they bring to the situation and to the interaction. Our team members approach each person with dignity and with individuality. We know that those that we're serving are experts in their own lives, and that the philosophy that we take is that we're walking with people, meaning we're not doing for them, we're walking alongside them along their journey. So we have that privilege of joining them, and often, we're one of the only ones there with them. So we're joining them on that journey to ensure that they feel belonging and that they feel like this is a place where they can thrive.
Oh, fantastic. Ray, do you have any thoughts or comments about the impact that Technovation has and how equity is working for your organization as well?
Yeah, one of our biggest indicators that we look at when students go through the program is how their confidence in different skills has changed over the course of it. So we ask them how they feel in things like teamwork and collaboration, but also about their technical skills at the beginning. And at the end, we ask them to assess themselves again. And we almost always see a huge increase because they've had some exposure to it now. And students who come back year over year only get more and more comfortable with it. and find new ways that they can kind of express themselves and work on things and take on different challenges. And of course, we look at numbers. We want to make sure that we're still reaching as many youth as we can, and that we're engaging with as many mentors as possible that work with those teams and to support them. We really want to see how they've grown, and in the case of our mentors, kind of their sense of belonging to their communities, and how that has increased and changed in their time volunteering with us. Equity is inherently a big part of how our program works, but I think what Technovation does really well is we provide a curriculum, but we leave it up to folks in different regions around the world to apply it however makes the most sense for them and their environments and their communities. So we're really excited to be in over 100 countries, and over the lifetime of the program engaged over 300,000 girls and youth in problem solving and being leaders and entrepreneurs. We're excited to see that number grow, but our biggest thing is always that confidence and that connection back to community that we look for them to build.
Thanks, Ray. That's terrific. And Tova.
Oh, so we know that because we're a business organization, actually, that organizations, businesses, communities measure what matters to them, and then they manage what they measure. And so we try to put measurement into literally everything that we do. There is something in the environmental movement called greenwashing, and many of us know it. You've seen things where you see like green clean on a cleaning product, and it's not. It's just the color. Has no difference than anything else on that shelf. And we see that in a lot of claims, and a lot of that's actually coming out right now in the news, talking about organizations making net zero claims and what does that mean and how are they actually doing that. So measurement and impact is deeply ingrained into what we do. But I would think beyond that, the place that I see the impact of the work that we do is the normalization of sustainability in the conversation of how we must live, how we must operate our businesses. It used to be 9 years ago when I came into this job that I would go to organizations and I try to convince them that they should care about sustainability. Why does this matter and why is it good for your business? The tables have turned to some degree, not as much as they should, where organizations are now coming to us saying, I need help in this. I'm hearing about sustainability. I clearly need to do this as an organization. Can you help me? Can you help me get to this future? I see that I need to do it. And so that to me is a bigger impact of the work that SWR does and of the environmental movement as a whole, that it's no longer sort of a niche thing that a few interested do-gooder companies are doing over there, but it's becoming actually the norm and expected. And for those who are not doing it, they're conspicuous by their absence. And so I think there's a big piece there too. And that includes nonprofits. House of Friendship is a member of our programs. We work with them on what's their carbon footprint in some of their projects that they're doing. I've been doing some consulting to help them bring in some of the learnings that we got, say, from the Evolve One building, which is Canada's first net positive multi-tenant office building, first of its kind. It's here in Waterloo region. How do we take the learnings from that and scale it into other organizations? So there's all of that. The idea of embracing equity, we have a fairly diverse team ourselves, and we strive to maintain that both at our board level as well as at our staff and volunteers level. Our volunteers are all hired like any other team member would be. They have a job title, they go through an interview process, they've got weekly deliverables, they've got one-on-ones just like any other job. But even more than that, we know that our reach out is bigger than our own teams. And so we have a series of events that we run to bring in the issues of equity to the minds of our members and to get them to understand that the UN SDGs with Ray, I was so happy to hear you talk about the SDGs. The UN SDGs are a central part of the work that we do. And we actually believe that the 17th goal of the UN Sustainable Development Goals is the magic. The 17th goal says you can't accomplish any of the goals without working on all of them together. And so we actually have the Sustainable Development Goals as a tool for all of our members to use to encourage them to look at their, culture change and processes and policies and environment, but to also at the same time, through an environmental group, think about what are their gender policies? What are their poverty policies? How are they looking at diversity? All of that sort of thing being deeply ingrained. And so that's at the individual organization level. And we've also done it with the Climate Action Plan, which is the community carbon footprint and plan. There are 4 pillars, and one of those 4 pillars is how we relate to each other. That it's through sustainability work that we will build, and the phrase that we like is an equitable, prosperous, and resilient low carbon future. Equitable, prosperous, and resilient through low carbon. So it's in everything we do.
Oh, thank you, Tova. You know, it's so progressive to hear all of you talk about the equity piece in your organizations and in the world. And I know a large part of understanding the equity practice is really recognizing that the need first for cultural awareness and intentional awareness and respectful awareness. So all of you are doing incredible things. And I know at Grand River, we always want to provide the best possible healthcare and improve access to care. And one example that we've gotten this initiative in the past year is to create a health equity team to address barriers to care. And so it's an exciting time that we're on this journey to develop a framework with the community and forming key partnerships to ensure that this actively includes and reflects the communities that we serve. So there's some exciting work going on at Grand River too. And I feel like we're this big network. You know, we just have 4 organizations we're representing tonight, but healthcare is about all of us. It impacts absolutely every person, and everything in our organizations that we're doing tonight is all health related too. And I know my leader at the foundation, he is really it's not about the hospital, it's about healthcare, and it's about all of us. So exciting times ahead to collaborate. And I see we are, oh my gosh, almost out of time. We don't have any questions from our audience tonight. And I even have a couple more that I had hoped to ask you, but I am going to ask one final, maybe 20 seconds, because this conversation has been so interesting, and I know we could go for another hour, but what advice would you give your grade 12 self? How about you, Jennifer?
Yes, I love this question. No surprise, what I've already talked about and what we've already shared is kind of my answer to this, but my advice would be go easy on yourself and don't be concerned with planning out your path. I would say everyone's path is going to look different. Embrace the differences, you know, do what you need to do to find what you love, and then just keep doing that. Again, if you work in an area that, you know, you're being impacted personally or you're passionate about, you're going to find your place. So go easy on it.
Perfect. Awesome. How about you, Ray?
Yeah, I would probably give young Ray the same advice that I kind of open any program that I run with now. You will experience every opportunity in life learning one of 2 things. Either this is something amazing, wonderful, and fantastic that you want more of, or this was cool, it was interesting to learn about, but it's not for you. Either way, you've gotten a little closer to figuring out where you want to go next.
Nice. And Tova?
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I'm gonna say so there's a phrase from my philosophy background called "no te sautem," know thyself. And when I was a kid, I had all the energy, and I can tell you it wasn't always fun for my parents, and it certainly was not loved by my teachers. But all of that energy is my superpower now. And so just embrace who you really are and leverage it to the most, and be okay with it. It's all right that you've got all that energy. It will hold you in good stead later.
Awesome. Well, just closing out, I want to thank each of you for sharing your valuable insights, your experience, and in your careers and how you got there in this sector. And we've learned such a diverse range of opportunities that are available in the field. And the passion and dedication that each of you have is a requirement to make a meaningful impact. So as we move forward, let's continue to support and uplift each other and our efforts and create this positive change. We're going to champion equity and make a difference in the world. So remember too that a career in this sector, it's not just a job, but it is a calling to serve others and create a better future for all. So ask yourself how you may see your own path in this sector, and I invite you to consider the possibilities and explore those options, and you will be a vital part of the next generation of nonprofit leaders who can choose one day to lead and shape the future of the world around us. So thank you for joining us, and over to you, Laura.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to echo what was just shared about this evening and all the things that we've learned. Thank you for joining us this evening. We really hope the discussion has helped to really inspire you to consider a career working in the nonprofit sector, or to explore some possible volunteer opportunities right now. I love all the advice that was shared tonight, and I'm really fortunate that I get to work alongside all of our panelists in the community and seeing firsthand them doing amazing work to support the various organizations that they represent. So we just wanted to share some information with you as a reminder. The recording of the event is available. Please feel free to access that and watch it again, and all of the other recordings from all other sessions are available there as well. For more information about the organizations that you heard from today, we provided their websites to go and check out volunteer opportunities, more information about their organizations in general. And please do check with your school about about possibly getting some volunteer hours for attending this session, or more information about that. Feel free to find us all on LinkedIn if you have any kind of further questions or want to explore different avenues as well. And a special thank you to the Women Empowering Women digital community who provided this central forum with women in communication technology for allowing us to have these wonderful sessions to hear from inspiring women in our community. So thank you all, and thank you for joining in.